everybody! Some of you have asked me to make videos to teach Japanese, which I am not capable of doing because I'm no expert on that subject. Like, just ask a Japanese person to do that for you because I would fail at that. Like, American girl, not good Japanese teacher. I'm not an expert at all. Like, I can read katakana and hiragana, and like I can read like 5 kanji. That's it. Speaking wise, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not good at like keeping track of like how much I know. Like, I know slightly more than basic. Like, I can communicate about how I feel and stuff. Oh my gosh, they made me introduce myself so much when I was over there. Like, everywhere I went, I had to introduce myself, and I had my little introduction planned out. And it'd go like this. Konnichiwa, Johnny です。17歳です。アメリカのインディアナから来ました。どうぞよろしく. Everyone would be like, yeah! Oh my, yeah, woo! And they'd like freaking clap. Like, I'm not even kidding you, the applause. They would applaud for me. I'm like, I said my name, how old I am, and where I live. You don't have to clap for that. It's like I gave a freaking award-winning speech or something. Some of the words I use the most in Japan, or that other word people use on me, the one word I heard the most was daijoubu. Like, everything I did. Daijoubu, daijoubu. Like, everything. And like the first week and a half, I had no idea what it meant. People just kept saying it to me, and I'm like, and then you just kind of nod. But it's basically like, you can say it as either it's okay, or you can kind of say it as a question and be like, are you okay, or is it alright, you know, like that. So like, everything I did, like, they were really sweet in trying to make sure if I was okay with it. Another thing my host sister would always say to me is wakaru. So that's basically like, do you know this, or do you understand? So she used that for me all the time. Like, she'd say something in Japanese, she'd be like, wakaru, wakaru. And I'd be like, hi, wakarimasu. And the other word I use a lot is hi. That word you use a lot. Like, you just say yes to, don't say yes to everything. I made that mistake. I used to say yes to everything, even when I didn't, like, if I didn't understand someone, I just, you know, nod and smile and say hi. But, bad idea. When a girl comes up to you at lunchtime and she asks you if you drink alcohol, and you're just like, yeah. And my host sister's like, what? Johnny, you drink beer! And I'm like, no. She's like, you said so. And I was like, no, I don't know. So yeah, I stopped saying yes to everything. Like, after that, I just tell them I didn't understand. I'd just be like, wakarimasen. That means I don't understand. And that was it. No more pretending I understood, because that was just terrible. Oh my gosh. One word I did not use when I was in Japan was kawaii. Like, oh my gosh. Like, that word gets so overused. And like, even before I went to Japan, that word had already grated my nerves from all the little animes and people attempting to speak Japanese, and like even Japanese girls in videos and stuff being like, kawaii, kawaii. And then everywhere you go, the girls will look at you and they'll be like, kawaii, Johnny, kawaii, kawaii desu ne, la la la. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, I got so sick of that word. Like, I used that word like literally 5 times when I thought something was like genuinely cute. One mistake that some people make, especially like the other kids who went over there with me, is saying arigatou gozaimasu when like it's like not even a formal situation. Like, that's the formal way of saying thank you. Thank you, like, in general terms, just arigato. And then like, if you're really thanking someone, you say domo arigatou gozaimasu. And like, I've seen people, like, someone hands them a stick of gum and they're like, oh, domo arigatou gozaimasu. And I'm like, do you realize how stupid you look? It's like, they give you a piece of gum and you're like, thank you so much. I am forever indebted to you. I owe you so much. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's a piece of gum. Like, they laugh at you when you do that. Make sure you have the proper usage of things. And also, don't use Google Translate. Please do not use Google Translate, because Google Translate will screw you over. Like, I always have to check if I ever use Google Translate. For we, sometimes it'll give you ware ware, and that is like we, and like you're this big boss of a company, or you're like some head person, and you're referring to yourself and like all the people like below you or your workers or whatever. Like, that's kind of an example of where that's used, and it always gives you that for we. Don't use that word. That word makes you look like a douchebag. Just don't use it unless you're like the freaking president of a company or something, okay? Bad word. If you're gonna say we, do watashi tachi, and that's perfectly fine, okay? For the most part, they're not gonna use like big fancy words on you. Like, there's this guy, me and my friend were walking. It was like the day we were supposed to meet our host families, and we had our 4-H shirts on, and we were walking, and this guy comes up to us, and he asked us what 4-H was, because our shirt said 4-H. He's like, what is 4-H? So my friend goes on this big rant, and she's like, 4-H is very similar to the Labo organization, and he's just staring at her like, and I was like, kurabu, kurabu, because I don't know, I was pretty sure at that point in time that meant club, and that was the only thing I could think of to describe 4-H, because it's a club. He's like, oh, okay, and then he says something else in Japanese, and we didn't know what it meant, and then we both kind of looked at each other awkwardly, and yeah, he walked away. So yeah, that was horrible. I was like, gosh, I wish I knew more Japanese. This was extremely awkward. You want to know as much Japanese as you possibly can before you go. Just do it. Just learn as much as you can. Don't think you can get by with the basics, because it's not as fun that way. Like, it's sucky, okay? Because you don't know what anyone's saying. I actually didn't have that problem. I didn't really care, and I learned a lot by listening to people, but trust me, you don't want to get left out of stuff, and you don't want to look like an idiot when people ask you things.